Hi, and welcome everyone. This is Varleigh at Lavender Sky Panther with you on Sunday, April 12th, 2026. Hopefully everything's working okay. I don't know, every time I come on trying to do live stream, it gives me a redirect and I have to open up somewhere else. So hope this is just streaming on one like one specific place. But anyway, welcome. Glad you could be here. As I wrote in my description, we're going to have a little Sunday fun day on this one. It is called Spirit Animals. I'm going to put up the little cover sheet, the thumbnail, just to mark the occasion here. So we're going to be talking about spirit animals, yes, but also if you break it down slower into like, each word, we're also going to be talking about spirit and animals of all kinds. So we're going to be talking about spirit animals, familiars, and also just wildlife or domestic animal life encounters. So I invite you, as I kind of get warmed up here, it always takes me a little bit to get into the flow of these things when they're live. Maybe think of any kind of spirit animal, or if you have familiars encounters or wildlife encounters that just seemed like a little bit more than just, oh, hey, that's a bird, or that's a cat, or that's a dog, like where maybe something was just felt different about your encounters with them, where you just felt a deeper connection or something very unusual surrounding the situation happened. And I'm also going to put out there food for thought for you to think of other things. Like, actually, I'll go ahead and do it now. I'm going to throw out a few questions that you can be thinking about during the show. Feel free to hop in the live chat and make any comments you want. If not, no worries. But maybe be thinking of, I have a few questions. So what was the very first animal in your life that you remember noticing? Now, you could be at the age of being in a crib, so like a little baby, or, 2 or 4 years old or whatever. So be thinking of what coming onto Earth was the first animal you can actually remember. Some people can remember as far back as laying in a crib and seeing like a mobile going around, and there might have been little animals on there, or pictures in your room or whatever. Because think about it, you have a lot of time as a little baby sitting there, wherever your room is, to be looking around and observing things. And especially if you come in as a quote unquote star seed, if you know what that is. If not, I'll put a link to a really good explanation of it in a YouTube video after this airs. But anyway, if you're really extra connected in and remember some of your origins when you're born on this planet, you might really be extra observant and really notice a lot of details. So it's just for fun. And again, you can write it down, or just, it's a rhetorical question for yourself. But what's the very first animal that either you remember seeing, or just it really clicked for you, like it was just really meaningful? Okay. Then another question is, did you have a stuffed animal? And if so, what was your favorite? Okay. Here's just a little one I picked up the other day. This is a little grasshopper, or not grasshopper, cricket or something. No, I think it's a grasshopper. Anyway, that's that one. But yeah, what did you have a favorite stuffed animal that you always carried around with you, or remember looking at one if it was up on a shelf, that kind of thing. Also, what animal do you remember drawing? The very first drawing of an animal, can you remember that? Or if you can't remember the very first time you drew it, did you always draw one thing over and over again? And if so, what animal was that? Or did you do anything interesting or special with the animals? Like, did they always wear hats, or, what I mean? Just something, just asking, what animal did you first draw? Or later in life, was there an animal you drew and you're just like, wow, I did a really great job drawing it? And when I say drawing, I mean painting or sketching or somehow expressing it, even finger paints. Also, dreams. Have you had any dreams with animals that just really stand out to you, where you're like, do you say to yourself, that was unusual, or, wow, why did that animal hop in there? Or maybe it's an animal you already are familiar with and it made sense when they came in the dream. And so these are just a few questions I just want to throw out there at the beginning of the show. And then I'm going to take it in a different direction a bit, and then we'll come back around and see if you've, come up with any insights based on some of those questions. So before even getting into the topic of spirit animals, which we're going to do, I'm going to go through, I have about 6 different decks of oracle cards that I'll do at the end, or toward the end, probably. I don't think I'll put them up in the front, but I'll put them at the end of the show if you're interested in that. And if not, you can always hop off at any time, obviously. So we'll go through some oracle cards with some meanings of some spirit animals. But before I even get there, I want to pose the question, do you know what a spirit animal is? And do you know the difference between a spirit animal and a familiar? So I am going to do a straight read off of what the internet talks about, the difference between spirit animals and familiars. But before I read that straight up, and then we'll really dive into some fun stuff, because I have some pretty wild encounters, pun intended, of experiences with animals, physical and the real world, that had like a spirit animal tendency, or at least some deeper connection and some kind of divine phenomenon happening around them. So I'll talk about those. But before I do, let's get into what are spirit animals and what are familiars. And just a fun introduction, especially if you have little ones. This is, I think, for like ages 10 and up. There's a whole series called Spirit Animals, and each book is written by a different author. And this is kind of a fun adventure. It's just called Spirit Animals. There's kids involved. I want to, do a spoiler alert here, but they also are spirit animals in conjunction with talismans. So, maybe also when you were young, you first were supposed to remember animals by maybe you were given a necklace in the shape of an animal or a little carved figurine or something. And anyway, that book is kind of fun because they go on different adventures with different spirit animals, and they also are hunting for talismans, which have meaning and fun magical powers and stuff. Then this is another little book that's interesting. I read it a long, long time ago with some little ones. I had the opportunity to work with some kids. But anyway, this one is just called The Familiars. And so that's another fun little book. Okay. Now let's read the definition. So I'm just going to straight up read this, so bear with me. This is one of those, automatic info things that I just pulled up. But in this case, I read through it, and, it's good enough to get this conversation going. All right. So it says spirit animals are archetypal spiritual guides representing specific life lessons or traits, often connected to shamanic traditions, while familiars are specialized spirits or sometimes physical pets that a practitioner directly with magic. Spirit animals function as guides, protectors, whereas familiars serve as partners or assistants in supernatural tasks. It says key differences. Purpose: spirit animals or animal guides offer wisdom and protection. Familiars are considered active assistants, helping in magical work and enhancing energy. Nature aspect: spirit animals are usually non-physical, representing the collective, overarching spirit of a species. For example, bear spirit. Familiars are often viewed as distinct, individualized spirits that may inhabit a physical pet. Connection: you may have multiple spirit animals throughout life for different lessons. A familiar is often seen as a deep karmic partner in a practitioner's work. And actually, there's just a couple more things I'm going to read straight up because I think it's well written here. Origins: spirit animals originate from indigenous shamanic beliefs. Familiars are rooted in Western European folklore, often linked to, though not exclusively, witchcraft. Spirit animals as animal guides and totems. Characteristics: non-physical, archetypal, represent personal attributes or lessons. Interaction: communicated with through meditation, vision quests, or observation in nature. Role: they act as spiritual guardians or mentors, often guiding a person through different life stages. As far as characteristics of the familiars, they're individualized entities with distinct personalities that can manifest as animals or shift form. Interaction: work closely with the witch or magician in a symbiotic, often loyal relationship. And there's just one more little thing I will read here, and then we'll get into it, get the show. Let's see. The interaction: they work closely with the witch or magician. Okay, I read that. In a symbiotic, often loyal relationship. And their role is to assist with magical tasks, protecting the practitioner and boosting their power. And if you are a huge Harry Potter fan, you know that that's like their familiars, like what Harry had an owl, and I forget all the other animals. Somebody had a rat, right? Okay, and it says, while some modern practitioners use the terms interchangeably, traditional and occult definitions maintain a clear distinction between the two based on their role in spiritual practice. So I think that's really thorough. Hey, welcome, Higher Vibrations. Good to see you. So that's a pretty thorough definition with some nuances on the difference between familiars and spirit animals. And then we're also, like I said, as I go through some personal experiences, I'm sure you all have some too, no doubt. And again, feel free to put them in the chat or not, however you feel. I'm going to go through some really poignant ones that I had. And I think, if you've lived on this planet at all, you've had some interesting encounters with some kind of animal, spirit or not. And I think the one I'm just going to bring up now and throw out there is, especially if you've had anyone pass on, into or transition into the heavenly realms. A lot of people report right after the loved one passes having a very uncanny or unusual experience with a bird of some type, because it's said the birds are the messengers between the earth plane and the heavenly planes, right? The most obvious. And so a lot of people see cardinals, red cardinals, if they're in your area. Other people will see hummingbirds show up. And again, it's usually in a very auspicious, uncanny way. And you just feel it and you just know, like, oh, that's a message from beyond. I've had that each time a father passed. I had a couple. And they, direct related, biological and not, to clarify. But after each one did, a red cardinal showed up in a very specific, very odd way. And I felt it right in here in the heart space that was a message from them. And it's said, and I've messed this up many times, this quote, you all probably know it, but it's like, if a cardinal appears, an angel is near. If an angel is near, if a cardinal appears, whatever. But I found that to be absolutely true. So that's one way, spirit animals, they may just be for a specific purpose or specific message or lesson, that the divine is very much there. Your loved ones are there. Also, they can be, just very specific one-offs. I remember a loved one had recently passed and it was going to be Halloween, and that loved one absolutely loves celebrating Halloween, like creating a haunted house with speakers in the house, blasting out to the neighborhood, everything. And I was just kind of like walking through the house where the person lived. I was just kind of holding my heart going, oh, I'm thinking of you, to my loved one who passed. And then something said to go open like a curtain in the back of the house. So I did. And it was getting to be toward like dusk. And I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm looking through a window and I see this huge thing like stuck up against the window. And it's a huge, like the biggest lizard I have ever seen in my life. And then the more I looked at it, its face was like looking toward me. I've never seen one like it in this area, living in an area where I've lived for 50 years with tropical stuff. Never saw a lizard like this. And the face looked like Kermit the Frog. It had like these huge eyes and this like wonderful little smile or big smile. And the lizard was like this beautiful turquoise color. And then it had like orangish brown spots all over it. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So it took me several days to look it up and find out what it was. And it turned out it was called a tokay gecko, I think from somewhere in Asia. It's pretty cool. But anyway, that message of that one was, just to get my attention to remember there's a whole spirit world. I mean, that was so specific, and again, you got to kind of like, not in a negative way, but watch your thoughts and things, almost like angel numbers. When you see 111 or 222 or 333 anywhere, 1111, that's getting your attention to like, what are you thinking in that moment? And that's like a nice little affirmation or a clarification you might be looking for in that moment. So that very unusual, never seen before in my life, didn't know it existed type lizard, to the point where I thought, like, did this come in from a different dimension? Really just kind of affirmed that we have that love, and our ones who have passed beyond, they're absolutely with us and can send us messages, often in the form of animals or feathers that float down. I gave that example in a previous live where, I was wishing a neighbor well. The ambulance had pulled up in the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I wish they're okay. And then, there's nothing in the yard. And I looked down and there was a pure black-tipped white ibis feather. And I looked all around. There was no flock that had been coming and going. It wasn't there when I just closed my eyes for a minute, held my heart, I opened it, and there it was. So these things happen. That was kind of along the lines of my talking about apportation in that one show. But anyway, we definitely get signs and signals from beyond. So we know spirit animals can absolutely be in a, like they're saying, non-physical way, but they also can show up physical. And also you may be thinking, well, I don't have a spirit animal or I'd like one. There are meditations you can do very simply within like 10 minutes to kind of figure out what your spirit animal at the time may be. Also, it's okay if you feel you don't have one at the moment. And sometimes they show up in kind of stressful or potential harmful situations. You may have one, come up in your mind's eye. You may see it. One may even speak to you or tell you its name, and you can also ask, for it. Also, as you go to sleep, you can just put it in your mind and put it out there. Hey, if there's a spirit animal for me, I'd really love to know who you are. And then you may, be visited in your dream with one. Okay, so I gave the questions at the beginning of the show to be thinking of. And I think so what I'll do is I'll just go into some of my own experiences. And give me 1 second. I just wanted to check something over here. I guess I'll look at it later. Okay, so yeah, let me get into some of these things. And if you do happen to, animals find you, like in these unusual situations, but sometimes you can also go seek them out, or like I said, like put it out in your mind, see if they come in a dream. But then you can also kind of claim one, if nothing seems to be around. You can just say, hey, I really love koalas, and I really intend for that to be my special spirit animal. And you can kind of make it so, right? And the other thing is, well, I think I'll go into some of my experiences, and then I'll come back around and talk about the questions I posed at the beginning of the show. And then we'll get into some oracle cards as well. All right, so I'll start off with kind of a really, let's see, I'll start off with the more simple ones, and then I'll get into the pretty intense one I had. All right, so spirit animals, or just different animals that come along our path. And again, we looked at some of the differences. I'm going to get into just some animal encounters that aren't necessarily spirit animals, but they were an animal in the time where some special bond or connection or something took place. And it can be fleeting just for a moment, but this is what happened. So I went to a public park, and I was going through maybe a tough time at that time. This was many years ago. And I decided I just really need to sit down in nature, like just on a nice lawn out in the park, and ground in. We talk about earthing and grounding we have on this channel. I'm sure many of you know about that, and just how to really connect in with the earth. And it's a reciprocal relationship. So when we want to connect with nature, it connects with us. It's not usually a one-way street. So as we sit down, we're putting out certain intentions, and then the earth or the animal plant kingdom, will come and come up and tune in. You tune into each other, and it's just kind of like a reciprocal conversation. So I went to sit down, and I was just going to meditate. I'm a horrible meditator in the classic sense. You're not going to see me in a lotus position ever, or trying to sit there upright, usually trying to connect in. I'm the type that just needs to do like a walking meditation, like walk along the beach or walk through a trail or something. Just things seem to come through better that way for me. Or even driving, just things will come through. I mean, I'm a really great and alert driver, but sometimes, you can tune into things that way. Or like people say, even as easy as doing the dishes, you kind of zone out a bit. That's a form against the traditional classic form. It's just, I've tried for over 10 years, and just somehow I don't connect. Oh, you know what? Ooh, speaking of connect, if the connection goes down, I will come back in. I don't know why. The internet is saying unstable. Give me a minute here. Let's see. Hopefully it is still connected. I believe it is. Yeah, seems to be. Sorry if there's any interruption. If I get totally cut off for some reason, I will come back in a part two. It should be stable. I'm hardwired in, but who knows? Just one of these glitchy things. Okay, so anyway, I lost a little bit of my train of thought. Okay, so sitting in the park, all right, connecting in. For whatever reason, that particular day, I could connect in better, trying to meditate. And I was just sitting there, and instead of like true meditation, I guess it was a form of one, I just felt peaceful. I just felt so peaceful and calm. I wouldn't say I connected to anything or got into a deep state of anything. I was just kind of just being grateful and thankful, and just sitting there in the park and just having gratitude for all of life, sending out love to the entire world, envisioning just lifting up where I was and lifting up the whole state, the light, all the way out into the galaxies. That's kind of where I was at. That's all I was doing. And my eyes were closed, and I was just calm, and I was breathing nicely. And then all of a sudden, I feel like something brushing against me and stepping on my foot and walking on by. And I looked down, and this huge duck. I mean, there's plenty of place to walk anywhere around me. I mean, there's an enormous field, and I was just like in the edge of the field, but nothing was around me when I sat down. This massive duck just like walked right over me like I was roots of a tree, like it didn't even see me. And I was just completely still looking down. I'm like, did that duck just walk on me? And that, I still remember the feathers, the sound of them brushing against my leg as I walked on by. So that wasn't necessarily a spirit animal run altogether encounter. That's why I broke it up as also spirit and animals, and encounters. So, but that was a moment where I was totally connected in with spirit to the point where that thing didn't even recognize the signature of me being a human and walked over me like I was like I was a log. It was really funny. And I looked and it didn't look back. It just kept going. And I'm like, wow, I was totally invisible to this duck. Or I was just, in that Zen chill state. It just walked right over me. So anyway, I thought it was pretty amusing. Another encounter similar to that in the same park was I was sitting on a bench, and then all of a sudden a bunch of little ducklings and a mother duck came by. And I just felt like, let me see if this works to sing to them like a lullaby. And so I started, and I'm not a great singer, but I was just trying to find a pleasing frequency to kind of hum sing. And I was just singing out something that was telling them like they're amazing. And I just kept kind of singing that and a nice kind of lulling, to sleep kind of tone. And the little ducklings started closing their eyes, and even the mother closed their eyes, and they were totally at peace. And then one of the ducklings would keep trying to sing along with me. So I'm bringing this up because we're entering into a time now where some people are, talking about they are feeling like they're being more telepathic, not only with people, but with animals. And you don't know until you try it out, So that was just me just trying to try something out, and it worked. And we had such a beautiful connection through that. Now, again, ducks aren't necessarily my spirit animal, but it was just an animal happening with spirit surrounding and flowing through. Another experience was, this one was took me aback. I do a lot of yard work, or used to, like in a very subtropical setting. And I've mentioned that too before in shows too. And this one place I lived at for a long time, I was very familiar with all the flora and fauna, and there would be snakes, but they were, thank God, non-venomous. And they were mainly like big black snakes and like black racers or red ringneck snakes, that kind of thing. And I had encounters where they startled me, and I've talked about that too, where I'd like pull down a palm branch and all of a sudden the snake started coming down at me and everything went into slow motion. And luckily it just dropped straight down and went the other way. Have had a lot of jump scares with that, because I'm not a huge, like, comfortable snake person, but, I've gotten better over the years. But anyway, I had a garage door open and I was kind of sweeping things out, trying to tidy things up. And then all of a sudden, something told me to look up, and this black snake was beelining to me like, like you had a beloved dog, and it was just like running up to me. Hadn't seen me in a while, and I'm like, my reaction was like, snake. So luckily, like, I had like a bag, and I could just kind of try to usher it out of the garage, and it did. But that was like so specific, and that's never happened to me in my life. And the energy of it was not scary. It was like friend, but like, okay, that's a little too friendly, like I wasn't expecting it. So that's another thing. And that particular day, I guess I was giving off some kind of vibe because I noticed different animals were popping up in weird ways. So that's something you may notice too, that these kind of animal encounters, or with like spirit within the animals showing up, you might have some days where it's more active with all of that versus others, right? Another one similar to that, where this snake just like came out of nowhere. I was sitting in a chair outside, and I was just kind of closed my eyes, being thankful for all of life, wishing everybody well, sending love out all around the whole world and beyond. And then all of a sudden I hear this like weird, like nails. It was asphalt or bitumen. Some people call it that. It was asphalt surface, so hard surface like concrete. And all of a sudden I hear these nails like tapping, like really loud though. And my eyes were shut. So I'm like, it was coming from behind me. And I'm like, wow, if that's a dog, because that would be reasonable for the area. I mean, it's got to be a massive dog. And I was just thinking to myself, because my eyes were closed, I'm like, wonder what the heck it is. So I opened my eyes, and I didn't want to make any sudden movements, especially if it was something massive. And I looked kind of like in my periphery. I didn't see a dog, but then there's this massive green iguana. And it came by and like hit my leg again, like that duck did, and just like walked on by. So you might start to, if you haven't already had some of these experiences where you just go into just a total blissed out state, and like animals will literally like walk right on you and past you, right? So that was another little encounter. So I'm like, what's with reptiles? I usually don't resonate with reptiles at all. Nothing against them, but it's just not my jam. And so that was two specific cases where I'm like, what's going on with the, little shine out the light meters, picking up, attracting, the snake and the iguana. But again, any animal, no matter what it is, it's just a beautiful soul in there, unless they're up to no good and there's some kind of negative energy in there. Then use your discernment and be like, okay, this is not going to go down well. But typically, if you're in a blissed out state or trying to connect in, they will, just come along. It's nothing that's going to harm you. And if you're not nervous, they shouldn't be nervous. Then, okay, so another encounter that was pretty exciting in a very unusual way, I'll say, was I had gone to like this event. It was Earth Day, and I was, thought, oh, let's check out what's going on Earth Day in this park. And people had brought like different animals, and it was kind of almost like a petting zoo situation where you could go up to different animals and have little encounters with them, like, hold them or whatever, like a little hedgehog or even a scorpion. They brought, there's just different wildlife people who were, brought ones that aren't going to harm people, but let the public engage with animals. It's for Earth Day. So I had gone, and then there happened to be a truck that had a bunch of rescue animals. I'd never seen this before. It was like a van or a bus, and then they had plexiglass windows all the way up and down. So almost like bunk beds. So you could look at the animals, and they were putting them like that, displaying them like that so that people would be encouraged to adopt a pet type of thing. And I remember I wasn't in a situation where I could adopt an animal, even though, I hated to see them there. I was hoping they would find a home. And so I remember looking, I just thought, well, let me look, and I'll just send them, good wishes, just as I walk by, just silent good wishes, almost telepathically sending out good wishes. And that's what I was doing. And then I stopped because there's this one dog. I'll just call him Reggie to protect his identity. But Reggie was sitting there, and usually I have more affinity toward other animals. I mean, dogs are great, but like, they say, are you a dog or a cat person? Usually I kind of tend to be more the cat person, but I love all animals. So I thought, oh, it's interesting. This dog is really catching my extra special attention. And so I looked at him, and he felt, just kind of forlorn. I mean, obviously, he's sitting there, and they want to find homes for them. And something just drew me to go up closer to him. And again, this is, I guess what I'm relaying is it's a great time now to kind of test out our quote unquote powers. We're all given these very special gifts. I'll equate it to like hugging a tree that's been kind of not vilified, but mocked, people that go and hug trees. There's even the, tree hugger phrase was used in a negative aspect. It's really a glorious, beautiful aspect if you know the kind of energy and life force can be exchanged in wisdoms, with you and a tree. It's really a beautiful thing. But similarly, some of these things that we talk about being spiritual practices or things, now's a great time to try it out, like telepathically speaking with an animal, or even I had one show up, a stray cat show up in the driveway one day, and I felt a connection, and I just put my hands on it and said, I love you. I feel that we're some kind of soul family, and I'm just mentally telepathically talking to the cat that I wish we could take you in, but I can't. I really could not in the situation I was in. I said, I am so sorry. I know you're coming to me. You're meant to be, we're supposed to have this connection, but I can't. And I felt so bad, but I felt that the cat understood heart space to heart space. And that was such a powerful interaction. And actually, I didn't even have that on my list to bring up. It's so powerful. And so we can really feel deeper into our love for these other souls. I see Higher Vibrations was in the chat. I don't know if she still is, but she even spoke of, I just caught one of her lives, and go see her YouTube channel. It's incredible. Talking about ascension symptoms and all kinds of wonderful things. But I remember hearing a recent talk she had, and she said that, she considers animals people. And I agree with that. They're souls. And sometimes you get a look at, if you really look at an animal, especially live, it's even better just to really feel the energies, really be able to look in and lock eyes, is certain angles. You'll see that they feel so human, look so human. I've had that with like a grasshopper was up on the glass, and you look at the eyes. I think it's called a lubber grasshopper. They're really big, and they have these massive black eyes, and it was sitting up on the glass so I could see the full body. And I'm like, oh my gosh, when I was looking at the face and it's just looking at me, I'm like, wow, that feels so human somehow. And I'm sure all of you have had an experience with a dog or a cat, and there's just a certain angle, and you just look at them and you're like, wow, that feels like a person, a human being. I've had that with a panther in the wild. What I call panther, Florida panther. Some people call mountain lion, cougar. And just looking at the face turned a certain way, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just like a human sitting there. I also recently posted in my on my YouTube channel, in the post section, there's I just dumped a ton of videos, little clips and things. I was just at a wildlife preserve yesterday, and I posted some things here and there. But there's a cheetah, and this cheetah was so elegant and beautiful. And when I first walked up to her, we locked eyes, and it was just like, you just felt that, like, this is more than just, what some people say, oh, it's an animal. No, these are living souls, beautiful beings. And now we're entering into time where we can really connect beautifully without a word spoken, and, just reading each other's energies and just sending out love to each other. Okay, so back to my Earth Day experience with Reggie in the dog. Something drew me to go over and extra just kind of stand in front of where he was. Now, the way this bus was, or this van with the plexiglass windows that were really large windows so you could really see, he had his own little room, his own little territory. So he was kind of lying down on the wall where I could come up to the glass, or the plexiglass. So he was set back a little bit, stepped away from the glass a little bit. And something just called me. And again, this is what I'm saying. Just get in touch with your intuition, and don't feel like, oh, this looks like I'm crazy or anything. Test out your little spiritual superpowers here. They're coming more and more online. So something just instinctively said to hold up my hand toward the corner of the glass, plexiglass, and just send him love, and just say, since I can't adopt you, boy, do I wish you the most beautiful family, or whatever you came here to do, that you end up, wherever you need to be, with the most beautiful, loving, supportive family that there is. And I was just pouring out the love from my heart space through my hand, toward the glass, and just wishing this little guy, well, medium-sized guy, totally wishing him well. I think it was a kind of bulldog or something. Anyway, wishing him well, sending out the love. And I got into a space, I'm almost tearing up now, where I was just crying. I was just so happy, sending out so much love. It's hit me now. Wishing him well. Well, he came down, and I'm going to tear up because it's such a beautiful, powerful moment. He came up to the corner where he's kind of hovering my hand, and he pressed as much against that plexiglass as he could. So I put my hand on the glass. My love was welling up so great. His was too. Oh my gosh, I'm going to tear up totally. I don't care. It's pure, beautiful emotion. And so it got so intense, our shared, thankfulness and love back and forth, that like a big white light started emanating out of our connection. I could see it, but I'm like, what is happening? Because it just so suddenly, spontaneously happened. And to the point where I hear behind me, a woman was walking by, and she shouted out, "Spirit." I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, another woman can see this connection. So it's not just me, feeling this. She saw it. She walked by, and she started going by, and she just yelled out one time really loud, though, like extra loud, "Spirit." And she kept going. So after the connection was done, I wished the dog well, and I turned around and I said, hey, did you see something? Because I was curious if she could see whatever was, like the light or whatever going on between myself and this dog. But for whatever reason, her mind was distracted, or wasn't going to tell me, because I said, hey, can you tell me what you saw? But she was like blocked. So I guess I just wasn't supposed to know. But then we got talking, and then she told me her experience of, she owned 2 really massive pythons, snakes. And these snakes were over 13 feet each. And she told me, she says, and this is something I did not know. She goes, yeah, when you raise your snakes, she goes, they come up to me just like a dog, like you call them. They'll come up to you on the couch. So that was her story. And she was a petite woman. So I'm like, oh my gosh, she has snakes that are like more than double her size. And that's a whole nother level. So if you're into snakes, I'm sure you'd be like, yeah, that's awesome. Mine does that. But to me, that was just kind of a horrific picture. I would not want, them that large in my home. Like I said, I'm not a snake person. So anyway, but I thought that was cool. I can appreciate how beautiful of an experience that must be if you own snakes and love them, and they come up to you like that, just like a dog would if you call them. So anyway, interesting. It's ever fascinating what goes on with the animal worlds. Also plants, I'll throw that in there, even though it's not a quote unquote animal. I've had encounters where I'm walking through and then all of a sudden, like two baby airplanes just jumped out like down on the ground in front of me. And so everything is out in nature. It's a sentient being. There's life in there. There's a soul. There's a spirit in there, even in water. It's just fascinating. So anyway, those are just a few of my experiences. I'm just looking down at some notes so I don't forget anything. But that one with the dog and then the lady yelling out spirit, I mean, that was pretty wild. That was a pretty cool experience. And just the connection with that dog alone, I had no idea that was possible. So this is just a friendly reminder. Maybe go out and test out some of these fun spiritual superpowers, especially connected with beautiful animals. Um, okay, so I guess I'll come back around to, and let me just click one thing real quick here. I guess we'll come back around to some of the questions I asked at the beginning of the show and see if you had time to think about it. So the first one was, did you, do you remember what's the very first animal you ever remember seeing as a little baby or child? And what comes to mind? So for me personally, I remember there were some paintings in my room when I was little, and there was a lamb and a rabbit. And those, really stood out in my mind. And I also remember jewelry. So there's a little birthday party, and somebody gave me a pendant of a plastic giraffe. And I when I got the pendant of the giraffe, I thought, oh, I'm not really so much into giraffes because at that time it was probably cats. But then I'm like, oh, I really love this giraffe. What is this? Again, that's like one of my very first animals seeing is when I'm little. So they have a fond place in my heart. Also, I asked, do you guys remember having a stuffed animal? I had a bear. So, okay, that was prominent for me to remember. Also, a white lamb. Somebody gave me a white lamb stuffed animal when I had a raging fever. Really, it was the sickest I had been in my little young life. And so that held special, um, you know, held a special place in my heart, that white lamb, because I made it through and it was what I associated to getting through, that hard time. Also, I was asking, do you remember drawing anything or constantly drawing the same animal or drawing different animals? What was the very first animal you remember drawing or painting, even if it was finger paints? And for me, I was drawing pandas a lot, and I had never had any encounters experiences with them. I just saw stuffed animals of them, and I loved them. Also rabbits and a few other things. Now, with that, I want to bring up if you were like always drawing one, or if you're drawn to a certain animal, especially if it was a little unusual than just like a dog or cat that you might have had in your home, or fish, something a little bit more unusual. Pay attention to that. I think that kind of relationship could also mean a direct tie to a past life you might have had. So some people in recent years have said, "Oh, you were like a monk in Tibet." I'm like, "What?" But I remember I did draw pandas a lot. And also, I'm going to take a step away from the animals, spirit animals a bit. Also, pay attention to what your favorite food is. I noticed when working with some kids, it turned out that some of your favorite food may also be tied to a past life. So I love Thai food, and that goes in with the theme of Tibet, China, the panda bear. So that makes sense that they're, and most of us have many past lives. There's some of us too that you come and this is your first rodeo. This is your first time on earth. That's very possible too. But it was interesting because a friend's child was like all about having Chinese food. And then somebody did a reading and told her, yeah, your son was like a medicine man in China. It kind of came out in the reading. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense because that kid loved Chinese food. So that's just kind of, again, another literal food for thought. What's your favorite food, and kind of observe it with other kind of people, especially if they might have a past life affinity towards something, right? Okay, then the other question I put out at the beginning of the show is, were there any significant animals popping up in a dream of yours? Or do you have any recurring dreams that might have a specific animal? And when I say animal, that can be, of course, mammals, sea animals, also bugs, insects, those all count, reptiles, everybody and anybody is in that category. So, do you dream often of whales, of dolphins? Is, there any other? Just to pay attention. And then, as I said at the beginning, spirit animal could be like your lifelong buddy, or it can just be the spirit animal coming in at the time with, a certain message. Again, it's usually when they show up in very unusual settings or situations, or they really capture your attention. And remember what you're thinking and doing at the time that they appear as well, right? Okay, so let's see if I wanted to bring up anything else about all of this. There is a lot more I wanted to say, but when I got on for this show, I felt like it might be a shorter one, but let's see. So there is one other thing I wanted to bring up. So I mentioned I did go to a wildlife preserve yesterday, and I posted, a lot of things on my channel, showing different animals, different, moments of them, especially the kookaburras. That was pretty funny. I've never seen any of those in real life before. And they were, they do have this laugh, and it's infectious. Like everybody walking by, you couldn't walk by them when they were like laughing, getting all in hysterics. And you can feel it building. They just like laughing, 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 and then like crescendoing up. Everyone was just kind of laughing. You couldn't pass by them without doing that. But, for that whole wildlife experience that I wanted to have, I felt very drawn to go interact or just be around these wild animals. And so I was all excited to go, and there was a very short window that I could go catch them. That would have been open to the public. So when I set out yesterday morning, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. But before I went out, I do this all the time. This is something I've been practicing since 2010, and just something I'm feeling to bring up now too. Before you just go off, like, say, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to go do this and see the wildlife, or, oh, tomorrow I have this appointment I have to be at. Just because it's set on the calendar and it's something you want to do or have to do doesn't mean that you're automatically supposed to go and do that at the time. What I do is in every now moment, like when I wake up that morning of the intended appointment or activity, I will always just double check in with the self, the higher self, with the divine team, and just say, am I still supposed to go to this place at 11 o'clock? Or am I supposed to go over here at all? Am I supposed to go at 2 p.m.? And then just be quiet and listen for, am I supposed to leave at 10 or a different time? Don't just, for me, I'm just saying this is what I've been practicing, and it's really served me well to avoid some, inconveniences or hassles by doing this. And also just to make sure you're like in the right place in the right time always. So I put it out there, like, should I go to this wildlife? Like, I know I have a very limited window to get in there and see the animals. So I felt a little pressured, but I'm like, should I leave, leave the house at 10? And I got 11:20, 11:30. Okay. Well, I didn't listen. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go at 10 and I'm going to get there and it's going to be this and that. And I need the maximum amount of time to go see all these animals. Well, I got lost for an hour, literally on the road. So I had a screenshot of the directions. I had it mentally, in my mind, the map, the way to go, which usually if I just look at something once, I see it, I got it, no problem. Right as I went out the door, also another thing happened that I ignored the intuition a little bit. And I know better than to do that, but I just did it. We're human. We have our right to be free and act however we want. But something said, "Ooh, bring your phone cord, to be able to plug into the car for the GPS," when I was on my way out the door. And I was like, okay, yeah, I don't need it. The phone's charged up. I already have the mental map and I got a screenshot of it. No problem. So I went out the door. So several things happened where I didn't listen to my intuition. One said, leave like an hour and 20 minutes later. I didn't. The other was, hey, grab your phone cord. I didn't. So what happened? I got like redirected, turned around, and usually I'm great with directions, like for an hour. So instead of getting ticked off, which, we could do, it was hot, I'm driving, and I'm like, what? And I pulled over a couple times trying to like figure it out where I was going. Reception was spotty, so the phone sometimes worked to try to do the map thing, sometimes not. Anyway, long story short, I did what I've said before too, common spiritual practice, or at least my favorite spiritual practice over, all this time of having my Great Awakening in 2010 is, whenever in a situation like that and you're like, now I'm lost, what do I do? Or, you're in a seeming harmful situation, just right away say, no, this is happening for me, not to me, and all is well. So I kept saying that. And then I thought, you know what? I didn't listen. I did get the intuition to leave later. I didn't. So what was I expecting? I'm going to get lost for an hour until it's the divine right timing to show up to that place. Also, never underestimate the power that is us bringing our light wherever we are. So as I pulled over to like try to get directions and the spotty, like, internet service or delivery, whatever was satellite, whatever, I was sitting there a while, and then I looked up and I realized, oh, a woman had pulled over. Her car was having a problem. And I was just kind of sitting there, and she didn't come up to me to ask for help. It looked like she had things under control, but no one else was around at all. And I just happened to be, kind of, like a little distance away, but I could look up and see if she was okay as I was like trying to look. So who knows? Maybe I was called to be there in the middle of nowhere place to just kind of be there's extra support for this woman. That's how these things can work too. So I didn't get upset. I'm like, hey, I'm always in the right place at the right time. Divine Team has my back. I know I'm fully protected. This is quite a detour, but I guess for some reason, I'm just not supposed to arrive there until I do, right? Kind of like the old Lord of the Rings, Gandalf says a wizard arrives precisely when he's meant to. There is no getting there late. And so what happened when I did get there to go look at all of this wildlife, Divine Team had my back, because had I been there for an extra hour, I probably would have passed out. It was so freaking hot. And even though I had water, I'm like, oh man, this was just enough time. And it was enough time to get around and see all the different animals that, I did want to see. So, anyway, I had one little other point about that with the wildlife stuff, but through that whole experience too, especially since I got there, quote unquote, later than I wanted to, I just went by feel. Like there were tons of species I didn't even get to. It was a hot day, so some of them weren't even visible. They were off in the shade and remote corners, and I just trusted that I would come upon whichever ones, I was supposed to see. And the most profound connection was with that cheetah, that beautiful, elegant cheetah that I've posted in some of the YouTube shorts. So beautiful. And we locked eyes, and there was just a very special heart-to-heart connection. So that was like my highlight of that day. So anyway, follow your intuition. And so I think that's as far as my experiences. There's a few more things here and there I was probably going to touch on, but I think that's enough for now. And what I am going to do is feel free to hop off, and otherwise I will go through a few for who they are for today. So what I'm going to do, I have several cards on the table. So there were about 6 decks I drew from, and I'll put those in the description area below, which is which. And each deck, several popped out. So I'm just going to go through all of them. And at first glance, I'm going to read out the animals and see if anything kind of pops up on your radar to pay attention to. And then after I read them all, then I'll just selectively go to whichever ones jump out at me and maybe read a little bit from the book or pull through a little message if anyone. So the first up are first 2 from, these are all great spirit animal decks. So again, I'll detail those out in the description area below after this airs. But the first thing coming up is Crow. And I'll hold the card up in a second, but it says, what can I learn from observation? And the bigger message below it is notice. And here, I'll try to do this without glare. Okay, so what can I learn from observation? Notice. And then the other one that jumped out with it, and that's what the back of these cards look like, is it's called Prairie Smoke, and it's a flower, and it says, what reminds me I'm free? And the overall message there too is liberate. So we got a message of, being free and liberating. And this deck is mostly animals, but there are some plants and flowers mixed in, and also some celestial things like so. But a plant wanted to jump out. We're going to go for it. Then we have another beautiful deck. This is the back of the card. We have Honeybee, Divine Feminine. You are being, let's see. Oh, you're being called to rise. That's a beautiful message with the honeybee. And actually, they're showing pink flowers. So we know when you got pink and green working in there, that is the energies of the heart chakra, pink and green. And Divine Feminine, it says on the card. And since I see B, it's reminding me, I didn't show the crystals of the show, the crystals of the day. Okay, they're hiding from me. Oh, here we go. So let me go through those and I'll get back to the cards. So crystals of the day, they often appear in the shows. I'm not going to go over the meanings because I have very extensive shows on my playlist about crystals for these. But we have Bumblebee Jasper. This is just this one specimen. Some show the full, like Bumblebee, the black and yellow. Others are more muted, maybe more yellow or more black. Here's a heart-shaped one, Bumblebee Jasper. So you see there's not so much black in that one. It might be more grays and whites. But that's a very happy, it's a very happy energied crystal. And I mentioned in a previous show, I would often wear these on a pendant walking into a hospital, if I was there to visit people, and just in my mind before I'd walk in the hospital every time, I imagined sunshine, warm, healing light, like the sunshine kind of energy, lifting up the whole hospital and everybody in it, whether they were a patient or a practitioner or a janitor or somebody working in the cafeteria, just everybody in that big place just lit up with beautiful, loving energy and a healing energy over that entire place, so much so that nobody even needed to be in there. And that's the space I would get into every time I'd even just walk in the hospital to visit a loved one there. So this bumblebee jasper that I'd wear on my neck, I'd, have it under my shirt most of the time, maybe sometimes out. People would feel it, like a nurse had even come into the room I hadn't met yet, and I was sitting there, and she just walked in. She goes, "Wow, the energy just feels really great in here." And, in part it was the crystal, it was also me, obviously, the, loving energy coming out. But these things make a difference, especially if we put intention into what we're doing, and they can help. You don't have to rely on a crystal ever, but it's kind of like what I was talking about with familiars. We don't have to, but it's like your little energy working companion to work some real magic and bring some extra energy and help you out in certain situations. So bumblebee jasper is one of the crystals of the show. I've brought this one up many times too, but it's an animal. So the spirit animal is orca agate. I love this one. It's, I think, only found in Madagascar as far as what I remember. And the last one I just pulled quickly because I'm like, oh, what crystals have a direct association with an animal. And the other one is peacock ore. There's a lot of copper content in there. It's really pretty, kind of like this, the peacock colors. There's better specimens, but that gives you an idea. And then one I couldn't find in time for the show, and in any way I have a small piece, I didn't know if it would show up so well, is crocodile jasper. Crocodile jasper is really dark green with some like blacks when you don't have water on it, and then you put water over it, and then it has like circles. So the stone looks like the hide, the back of or top side of like the crocodile. So that stuff's pretty cool. There are a lot of great meanings for that too. So I'm just throwing the crystals out. I invite you to look on your own too for some of the definitions and meanings more into it, or look on my channel, my whole crystal shows, right? Or other people's channels. Okay, so now back to the cards. So we had bumblebee, talked about bumblebee jasper. Now we have swan, graceful transformation. And it says, soften your heart and find your flow. Soften your heart and find your flow. That's a beautiful card too. So that might be a specific message for somebody out there. And then, like I said, I'm going to run through all of these, and then we'll go back to any that might want to call out our attention. I'm going to go to this one first. This is a fun little, it's not a oracle deck per se, but it's called Everglades. So the National Everglades National Park in Florida. It's also called the River of Grass. And there they had some flashcards. So there are a ton of animals in this deck, but again, it also has some different kinds of things. So the first one is number 3, and it has these tree snails. And the graphics are fun. It's like more like children's book illustration, but I like it. And it's just simply written for kids. So it just says 3 tree snails climbing a tree. The beautiful tree snail is active only when it is wet. And then they have striped shells and many different colors. That's what it says on the back side. I'll just show you in case you're interested. So these are fun little cards that I picked up at the Everglades gift shop many years ago. Then we get the letter U. So this isn't necessarily a spirit animal, but it does relate, and I'll tell you why, or wildlife animal in this deck. This just says uniform that the park rangers wear. So, and the other information I'm not going to read, it's not really important, but what is relevant is I did want to still bring this up because if you notice, and I have it on too, I have the beige and the green, kind of foresty and beige look. I wanted to bring something up important about that because I learned the hard way. I had an unusual, blessed opportunity where somebody brought a panther into my backyard. So I was doing some children's book illustration and et cetera, offered to go visit this person, at their place where they had the wild animals. And they said, no, I'll come to you. I have to be on the road doing an educational thing. I'm like, really? So this person showed up with a panther in my backyard, and I took photos and I was doing illustrations and stuff. And, but I made the error of wearing dark colors. So at that time, I was totally into wearing black a lot, most of the time. And so I had a black shirt and black pants on, and I started to take a picture. In addition, it was an old-fashioned camera, with the barrel on it, the lens. And the combination just tripped out this panther. So the guy was holding the panther, had a leash that was a chain, like a heavy chain. And I went to go take the photo. I was kind of sitting down also. And I went to get a nice angled photo, and then all of a sudden the panther just went out like this. And then in the discussion, I realized a lot of animals, even like dogs and stuff, they do not like the dark blue, dark or black. It just, it's like stranger danger, extra danger if it's the dark color for some reason. So ever since that day, if I'm going to be out in the wild or experiencing animals, and make sure it doesn't have to be this, the beige and the forest green, but I make sure that I don't have dark colors on, well noted there of what happened with my experience. Okay, so now back to the rest of the cards. So this is another fun deck. We have the horse and bluebell, and I think it says, modest fortitude. So there's a beautiful card, and the bluebells are, woven. Let's do this, woven into the mane there in front. That's very prettily done, that card. Okay, and then I'm trying to see. Okay, and then we have the snail and the huckleberry. And I don't have my little flashlight here to help me out. Give me one moment. Oh, trust in the invisible. That's a nice message. Trust in the invisible. And here we have snail again. So for some of you, I will bring up what's coming to mind on this one, since, we have it twice now. Number 3. And then here we got one snail. So the obvious message, what could be coming from a spirit animal or animal on this, is slow it down, right? Slow and steady wins the race. We'll all get there, and actually it was just, this goes with my little personal story. Here I'm like rushing out, and I'm so excited. I want to go see these animals, and everything else in my intuition was saying, slow it down. You can go later. Don't rush out. It's fine. And look what happened. I was slow. I was made to be slow because I went out ahead of time and I got lost, for an hour, but I still made it there and still won the race, so to speak. So another thing I want to say about that too, about the getting lost thing is coming back up again, is it's okay to get lost. If somebody says get lost, actually that's the biggest compliment. It's like, hell yeah, sign me up, because it's in the losing of ourselves completely that we find some magical and wonderful things happening. If you say like, oh, I just got lost in my work because you're enjoying it, or I got lost in making a painting, that's because we are just totally connected in something wonderful. We're throwing time out the window. There is no clock, there is no pressure, and we're just in the zone in the moment. So getting lost is when we really get into the real finding of our true self and what lights us up. So there you go. All right, another one from this one deck. Multiple cards came out with most of the decks. This one deck, only one came out, and it is Hawk. So that might have some special significance to you guys. From what I remember reading in the book, I will touch on this one. The book description will say, it's about having very keen insight, paying attention to the details, et cetera, seeing things from above, and seeing things keenly, kind of being like the observer. There's another card. What do we have? The crow. The crow is being the observer. And I talk about this a lot. So important if we are getting, especially if we're getting any kind of anxiety or feeling like doomsday, things aren't going well and we're kind of spiraling down. Get out of there. Just remember that life here is a game. It really is a game. And to get off the game board, don't duke it out being in the situation where you feel all that heaviness. If you can just for a minute allow yourself to just say, wait, this is just a game. Laugh at it if you can. That's also good. And zoom out. Imagine yourself like this beautiful hawk or the crow. Just zoom out above the game board and look down. Imagine you're this animal hovering down looking at it. And it's like, oh, look at those little pieces. They're running around and, it's just so small and insignificant. They're just doing whatever. And then from there, you can see the big picture. And then you don't feel like it's personal. You don't feel that energy attached to you. If you can be like, oh, I'm going to zoom out like divine. If I were God just looking down, you think God's in there and, God's not stuck on the game board. God can see it for what it is and look at the big picture. So just zoom out of it and don't let those energies attach to you. As you do, kind of detach yourself from it and look at it as an observer. And then things will feel much lighter and better. So anyway, that's what I want to bring up with Hawk as well, is the ability to zoom up and out and see a much bigger territory, right? All right, then we have 3 popped out of this other deck, and I'm laughing because as I was shuffling each of these decks to pull a card, of course, I'm just thinking, what does everybody need to hear in the collective? by me broadcasting whatever this thing is. I don't even like the word broadcasting, but recording this or going live with this, whether you see it live or on the replay. But like, what do people need to hear just in general? That's for the good and best for all right now. I kept hearing the phrase, "Here, kitty, kitty." So the very first card is laughing because the first card to pop out is number 44 or 8. Panther spirit, reclaim your power. So of course, like, "Here, kitty, kitty," brought out the panther that hopped out of the deck with a hop out card technique of shuffling and just seeing what card pops out. So that's fine by me because I have it in my hand, a Lavender Sky Panther. So reclaim your power, and look how gorgeous that card is. Just beautiful. Now Panther, the interesting little side tidbit here with animals. Panther, this card is showing black, and actually they're kind of like a tan and tawny color. So when you see the black one, it's a melanin condition that they come out with. You might even see like a black leopard where you can still see the spots, and there's a technical name for it. I'm just missing it at the moment. So you'll still see kind of the spots of the leopard, through the sheen, when it kind of turns and angles. So it's not like a true black like you'd think. It's just some kind of like a melanin condition. But whatever the case, maybe Panther means it's black for you, or it looks more like the Florida Panther, which looks, just like a cougar, the tawny color, or mountain lion. And there are a lot of names for Panther, at least in the U.S. setting. It's Panther, mountain lion, cougar, catamount, ghost cat, because they are so super stealthy and blend in with everything. They're beautiful, wondrous animals. And I want to bring up too, just a little fun aspect about Panther. What I learned when I was like looking through some of the Everglades stuff, talking to people, and reading some other books that the Everglades like put out, supposedly, and I've said this before, like on other podcasts and things, supposedly, I have not gone out in the wild and tested it out myself, but supposedly a mountain lion cannot stand the sound of a poodle yapping. It'll like send them up a tree. So it's just a fun little fact since we're talking about animals, right? A yapping poodle, they can get really annoying. They're beautiful, but one yap too many, and it's like enough to drive anybody crazy, right? All right, then we have number 49 or a 13 or a 4, rabbit spirit. Now is a lucky time. And that's funny because, that's popping out just right after Easter, whoever celebrates Easter. A lucky time. And, I do think, I don't think there's anything unlucky about rabbits. I mean, unless you have some on your property and they keep multiplying, and then you have a rabbit issue if they eat all of your leaves and stuff. But anyway, rabbit spirit is there. And then also hummingbird spirit, be here now. And it's at number 34, number 7. And as I was speaking at the beginning of the show, some people, you are visited by what could be called a spirit animal for that specific occasion. If you've had a loved one pass over or transition, a lot of people have hummingbirds show up and signify that your loved one is very much present and alive, just in a different dimension, and it's okay. And be here now is a good message. As I put my little greeting to everyone, wishing everyone a gorgeous now, it is about the right now. And wherever we are now, if we're feeling happy, that's great. Good to, keep that vibe up. If we're not, and for whatever reason down in the dumps, that's just a right now moment. And to remember, we can move through it, let it, pass, let those energies pass. And there'll be another now moment that is not that, right? Let's see, was there anything else? I think I wanted to read one more of the cards. I said I would read whatever like caught my attention with these. And any other messages that want to come through, I'll just kind of put that little wish out now. I want to read honeybee for some reason because the bee kept popping up as I was going through these cards. It's something to really pay attention to. I guess also subconsciously where I'm at, it's pollen season, and a lot of people do have allergies to that. Some seasons are worse than others, depending, I guess, on if it's drought or if there was a freeze or whatever. And actually, in one of my posts, one of my recent posts, I put, there's a cheetah, and I said he blew his own cover because he was trying so hard to hide behind this tree, and then he sneezed, and I happened to catch it on camera. And I don't put it there to embarrass the animal. It was just so cute. He was like trying so hard, and it's like a human, like, yeah, oh, if I hide behind here, no one will find me. And then we sneeze, and it's like, ah, man, I gave my cover away. So anyway, let me, if I can find it quick enough, I'll read it. If not, no big deal. Well, this is well, hang on. I don't know why I don't have it here. I thought I bookmarked it. Give me a minute. Oh, here it is. Oh, and you get 2 bonus cards because I'm looking here. Field Mouse, believe in yourself and dare to dream big. So maybe that was a message for you that you needed. And that's just a beautiful card at night. Oh, and success is an extra message for you. It's a happy little field mouse, looks like to me. Also, the extra bonus, was Dragon, Gaia's Gateway, access Earth's inner wisdom. Wow, that's a nice surprise even for me, because I pick out little bookmarks to throw in there, and these are what I call little bonus cards. So there might be something in that image that means something to you or kind of activates something nice for you. And Gaia's Gateway, access Earth's inner wisdom. And yeah, actually, I didn't bring that up too. Spirit animals don't have to be anything from what we know physically, what we can see and hear, these days. It can also be on other spiritual realms that are in slightly different dimensions, that if you've got really good, deeper vision, you can see them, or we're waiting for the veil to thin and the, energies of the planet keep rising, then a lot of us are going to be able to see unicorns, dragons, other things that were supposedly not here anymore. They're just in a different dimension. And until we get the eyes to see that again, they may be a little bit hidden from view, other than, some people can really tap in and see them, no problem. But more of us are going to be able to see some of these things. Oh, I just want to say hi, Jeanette. How you doing? Don't worry. Said she came in late. Hey, no worries. Thanks for being here. All right. So I'm just going to look at Honeybee for a minute and see if anything wants to jump out. That was the one that was the message, you were being called to rise. And actually, let's see. Okay, I don't see anything in the book, but I remember why. I mean, I can see why I am called to talk about Honeybee. It's talking about being called to rise, and I was just talking about seeing into different dimensions. And as a part of that, there's a quote that I saw years and years ago. I even put it as one of the posts on my channel. I meant to even print it out. So pardon if I misquote it or paraphrase it, but somebody put it out there, and it's so true. It's just saying that things are not getting worse. They're getting uncovered. And it's time for us to all come together, hold on tight, and pull back that veil. And so the bee, for whatever reason, the honeybee is just reminding me of that, buzzing and getting into a different frequency where we can start to see beyond the quote unquote veil, which is thinning anyway. And it will allow us to see even deeper and see some of these other things, other spirit animals in different dimensions, like the dragon we just pulled up and others. And I just want to say hi, welcome everybody in the chat. So also Hopkinson, great to see you, lovely lady yourself. And again, I want to take this moment to say thanks, whether you've watched me a long time or just finding my channel. I so appreciate each and every one of you. And feel free to drop an email. Some of you have in the past. I'm so grateful for your emails as well. And and thanks. Hopkinson says liked and shared. I usually never promote like, share, and like they say, that's to me programming. So you'll never really hear me say that. I think only twice in the history of my channel, which is 6 years now, have I said, hey, could you kindly share this one? Because I really feel it's important. But otherwise, the reason why I don't do it is everyone knows the drill, by now, how many people have said it. I don't even want to know, if you count it up, how many channels of everyone that says it every time, how much that is of programming. And not knocking anybody who does that, but it's just me personally. I just something saying I can't do it. Okay, so I appreciate when you guys take it up amongst yourselves to do it. And and I don't know if anyone has anything to say. A few people have popped up in chat, and I know you might have missed the beginning, but I'm just glad to see this is even working, because there was something rolling by saying unstable internet connection again, which shouldn't be, because I'm hardwired in this time. Thanks, Jeanette says, I love that. And so true. We are seeing behind the curtain. And yes, and thank you again for your good energy. I feel the love, and I send it back out to you all. Yeah, we are in some pretty incredible times. I'll just bring up now, we'll kind of off-road it. Feel free to drop whatever you want in the chat if it's about spirit animals, spirit or not, or animals in general. Oh, Jeanette, since you're there, I did talk about one. This is a shout out for you. I brought up a spirit animal visiting me a few years ago, and it's called the tokay gecko. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it is a beautiful turquoise, rather large lizard with like brown and orange spots on it, and has a face like Kermit the Frog and a beautiful smile. So shout out for you. You might want to look that up if you don't know about it already. But anyway, I just want to take this moment too. We're going through talking about the curtain and us all pulling back the veil together. Yeah, I think a lot of us are tired of hearing lies, deception, waking up into a world where we go, what? Our history isn't what we were told. And it can be frustrating, but we all are doing this together as far as going through something that hasn't supposedly happened on this planet before. So we have a whole collective consciousness sitting here. We know that we just want a loving way forward. If you found my channel, I'm just hedging the bets here. Because I only want to be now in good vibrations and people who are loving and encouraging. Who needs people around you who are trying to bring you down or go against. You try to bring up loving energy and they want to be a wet blanket. No, thank you. Not my job to be in that, is surrounded by that. So with a loving way forward comes an opening of the heart. Like, what did I say? The swan. Swan is graceful transformation. Graceful transformation. Soften your heart and find your flow. Well, that's what's going on now. Soften the heart, open it up. What have we been told in the past? Oh, you can't run business. You're too, like, not to me, but in general, like, oh, don't show your emotions. Never let them see you sweat. Hide everything. No, we're saying F that now. Throw that off. This is a time to be open and share. Everybody here is loving and sharing hearts and minds and beautiful creativity. And, what's that with showing a beautiful painting you did, regardless what it looks like? Anybody should see it and be supportive and loving and find beautiful aspects about it, not trying to cut it down and criticize. Or if you have a singing voice, who cares if it's quote unquote perfect classical textbook, or if it's just the way that you express. Truly loving people will hear that and just be like, okay, it might be like the classic, somebody's playing a violin and it's like scraping nails on the chalkboard, but you can even find the beauty and the harmony and the sound of that. And instead of going, that's terrible, or that doesn't meet a certain, level, well, who's creating that certain level criteria? There is no judgment on each of our personal expressions. Back to, the spirit animals, do you think they for once second guess, if the cricket is on the right, pitch when it's making its sounds, these things anything will growl at you or whatever. You think they're going, oh, I think I growled too low. It's just let that expression spontaneously bust out and don't worry about it. I used to see that growing up in church. I'd be like dragged along, and people would be singing and singing out of the hymnals, and then you'll see some people just mouthing it because they were so embarrassed to sing. Do we think for one moment divine or God's source wants somebody to play it small and self-diminish? God says, hey, be loud and proud with it, man. Just belt it out. Even if somebody's tone deaf, who cares? This is about expression and all of us coming together. It's kind of like a drum circle too. I was lucky enough to be in one that had about 20 people one time. Probably the only time I've been in one now that I think about it. But something so amazing happened. First of all, you don't have to have a drum to be in a drum circle. You can have maracas. You can have just a pencil and hit something that makes noise. You can have any number of things. There's little castanets, is that what it's called? Bells, anything, percussion. And what was happening was that it started off like everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and it's a little bit of a cacophony, right? And then all of a sudden, at a certain point, just people still doing their own thing, something supernatural in a good way, like divine takes over. And then like a whole wave, like people used to do the wave in the stadiums, stand up and go like this, a whole wave moved horizontally instead of up, and move through that whole circle, making it and combining it. And everyone's music, whether it was all off the page or not, suddenly, inexplicably hit the same wavelength, but it was a heart wavelength. It wasn't about audible sound. And you just felt it move through, and it was oneness. Again, even in a drum circle, you're sitting, in a circle, the circle is the one. We're all connected. And like I say, I use this quote all the time. I was at a lecture by Neil Donald Walsh. He was the one that brought through the Conversations with God book. And he said, there's one of us in the room. And when you think about it, yeah, one of us, because we come from the one. We're the little sparkler, the little spark that comes off the master sparkler, but we're still all connected. We've got that energetic trajectory all tied in. And like I've said before, it's like, God says divine. And again, let's not get tripped up on names. You can call it God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want, whatever is of pure love. And like I say, it's just love with a capital L. Call it that energy. And that energy drops in as a little spark, as the baby's heartbeat, the first thing you see on the instruments in the hospital. When the life force is in there, so it starts going pulse of light. That God spark comes in, and that's God saying, hey, I want to check out the world according to Varleigh, or I want to check out the world according to Jeanette. I'm just grabbing whoever I see in Hopkinson. It's just like, I want to see how they see. So we're individual, yes. We're experiencing life as we are experiencing it, yes, through our specific lenses, our eyes. However, it's felt through the one lens within the inner vision, the inner heart sight, right? The third eye, or the heart, seeing with the heart, is connected right back to the divine. So it's the divine having individual experiences, but at the same time, all connected back to the one. And you feel that with the animals too. Jeanette says, yeah, like a sonar. We're just so connected in with each other. And that's where we are headed now. I'm sure you guys can feel it if you're here on my channel, because it is the time now where we're getting kind of clearance, if you will. A lot of the negative baggage is falling away. Sadly, in a certain sense, any loved ones who have passed recently, especially, who have held like the old vision, they're transitioning on. And as a gift to us, to allow us to get lighter now and see things in a little higher, and not that lowers negative, higher's better, just in a different way, where we're not obstructed from sharing openly. There were generations before us called like the silent generation. There's all these different generations where they didn't talk, they didn't express. They were very much held back under penalty of being like thrown in an insane asylum or, deemed crazy. That's all lifting away, and it needs to shed away now, because where we are here now is clearing and making a beautiful, loving way forward. And that's the animals too, have long since been mostly higher vibrational. And that's why it's going to get real fun coming up, because if where we give ourselves permission to step back into the power that's always been there, which it's just been dormant or we haven't realized it. And now it's time to test out these things and practice things, telepathically speak with an animal, go hug that tree and try to listen for any wisdoms, and just share the love. It's just a beautiful, beautiful time. Oh, and thank you for the beautiful things you guys are saying in chat. And so I think, unless any of you want to bring up any other things about animals, I think that's where we'll end it, unless I see anything else wanting to pop up through these other cards. Oh, you know what? I did want to end on one thing. I think I'll end on a plant. That's about spirit animals. I did want to read out loud this bit about this flower called the prairie smoke, because I had never heard of it until I drew this card for everyone today. So it says, what reminds me I'm free, and the prairie smoke says liberate. So let me go to the book on this one, because I would like to, here, let me just show you. It's part photograph, part overlay of a sketch that they did on it. And let me go to this one, because that has me intrigued of what the heck is prairie smoke as a plant. And whenever I go to the book, we're going to get a bonus animal, because I have it as the page holder. All right, so the bonus animal on this one is going to be the great blue heron. What does standing still reveal? And the message is reflect. And that's funny, because it's talking about standing still. And we had the two cards about snails, like going slow. Well, this takes going slow to a whole new level. This is just standing still. And I don't know if you know anything about the great egrets or these types of beautiful birds, the great blue heron. Their claws, like, or what do you call them, talons, they look like, when they stick them down in the water, they look like roots. They look like natural tree roots and things, tree material. And so what they do is they sit calmly, still as still can be, and they wait for all the little fish and little things to get used to them there. And then the little fish come up in this like talon, because it looks like the roots, it looks like a little safe shelter. And then that's how they can catch some of the fish. Obviously, they also spear some stuff, but only because they have remained perfectly still. So a lot of times, this will probably be the last little message of the show, but a lot of times we feel like we are standing still and it's a bad thing. We feel like those little talons like stuck in the mud and we just can't get anywhere. And listen, I went through that like for 8 years. I'm like, what the heck? No matter what I would try, no matter what I would do to get some momentum going, things just, felt stuck in the mud. And there's just a time sometimes, divine timing is there. Sometimes that's it. Like you may feel stuck 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, maybe only 2 days. But, when you do things with pure intention, you want the best for yourself and those around you, just trust that the things will come in the divine and right timing, even if it feels like forever. I mean, I've been tested with that P word, patience, way past my comfort zone. But sometimes that is just the way it is as things behind the scenes are aligning. And, I don't even like to say in those times where we feel stuck and stand still that it's lessons. Sometimes it's just about, okay, I'm on this earth. I don't know what it feels like to stand still for that long. I guess now I do. That's something I've been telling myself a lot lately too. And Hobbenson's just says 2 steps forward, 4 steps back. Sometimes it feels like that. And then sometimes it's just like, yeah, you're counter, like 2 forward, 2 back, and like you feel in standstill. But the thing is that I've been telling myself a lot lately too, like my example of getting lost for an hour before going to see this wildlife, even though I was so excited. I'm like, well, I guess I haven't been lost for an hour in a while out on the road, like, okay, that's something new. So looking at everything like with childlike wonder, or also just taking it in stride, like, okay, so that happened. When am I going to cry about it, or am I going to just look and laugh at it and go, okay, and sometimes we get the joke, the divine joke while it's happening. And sometimes it takes, maybe the next day you look back and you're like, oh, that's why I needed to, be like roaming around for an hour. Or I'm like, okay, well, now I know where not to go. Next time, if I go back there, I'll know how to get there without a hitch. Right. So anyway, yeah, it's just life. I think, one thing I wanted to say is, yes, we have the energies moving forward. We're going to have less speed bumps in our way as far as trying to live a nice, smooth flow. Like, again, that swan card was opening the heart and flowing, finding your flow. So there's less speed bumps to block our flow, less like logs in the water to, trip us up. And, and also we're getting the wisdoms to, if something is blocking our way, like a log in the water, fly over it. There's more than one solution to any problem. There's millions, and there's never like an A or B choice. There's A, B, C, D. There's all of the above, none of the above. Like, and there's also, I'm not even going to fill this out. It's stupid. It doesn't apply to me. Not applicable. So we're moving into a new beautiful time forward. So also the energies are off the hook. I know in other channels people are talking about too, the Schumann resonance. I kind of look at that and, I always like wondering, is that chart, like who's running that chart? And like, who's putting the data in? It feels about right. But I think all of us by now are good barometers for knowing like our energies whack, like I'm sitting here and then all of a sudden at like 10 o'clock, why do I feel like restless? And then we can probably bet your bottom dollar that something's going on with the Schumann resonance, right? So now's a time where we might be not eating like we used to, regardless of your age. Just certain things don't feel right in the body anymore. Part of that might be chemicals. The industries are putting crazy crap in the food, or just the body is just saying, no, not that now. And so now's an important time to listen to the body. Body has an intelligence in each and every cell, capital I intelligence, not lowercase I. It's connected in with the divine. And we are going through a shift. When I was talking about us pulling back the veil, things are getting uncovered. They're not getting worse. They're just getting uncovered. So we can see it like, I see you, what's really going on. So we know what we're in. And so we know how to move about our lives. Part of that is going to be this shift from like a 3D denser earth to a more, heavenly, moving into heavenly frequencies. And think about it. So we're going to get lighter. So we're not going to eat some of the same things that are kind of heavy in energy, energetically. It is time to move into something lighter. And that also might look like, oh, I don't feel like eating, at all, really, for a few days. And, yourself, obviously, this isn't medical advice. This is, yourself if you're feeling faint or something. But I'm noticing there's none of that anymore. Like if I didn't eat something, I'm not feeling faint and, oh, I'm weak. I'm just like, okay, I feel better. I feel lighter. Things feel better in the body. So just notice now is a time where we're going to eat, maybe not eat, stay hydrated, obviously, but really listen to the body, go within. And if you're feeling under the weather, I've talked to a few people who have had like flu-like symptoms. Just remember, I'm moving through it. It's a time and invitation to take care of the self maybe a little bit more, maybe rest a little more. If you're unexpectedly under the weather, also it's a time to purge out toxins. We each are getting bombarded with, even if toxins aren't from food, it's energies, it's, waves we don't even see, microwaves and whatever else is flying through the air. And it's just a time to listen to the body, what it wants. And if you can honor it, if that looks like sleep, if you can't sleep all through the night, try to do power naps if you feel it. Just let the body tell you and inform you. Just have a dialogue, with your inner self and with your actual body. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like trying to see if there's anything I should read, but I think you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. Oh no, I'm sorry. Jeanette says, yeah, same, Varleigh. I just had that conversation. Went a few days without food last week. Yeah, some of us are just going about our days and then turning around and going, not even conscious thought, like, wow, I really didn't eat much, did I? Or when's the last time I had the full proper meal? But like I'm saying, for a lot of us, it doesn't seem to even make a dent. Like it doesn't matter, and if anything, the body feels like better. So just know that's a thing. Obviously, if you feel something's off, go get checked out if you're feeling, to do that. But just also know there's a whole bunch of us out here kind of like comparing notes, scratching your head, going, okay, things are changing. Something significantly is changing for the better on this planet in a measurable way. For me, I do think the food is a key component of it. Like some people are waking up as part of the Great Awakening, whether they're seeing a UFO and that changes their whole world, or they see Bigfoot. That's another key way to wake people up, Sasquatch, or any other kind of cryptids. Those are real, and that is a way to wake people up to there's a greater, bigger world. And then another one I think now is this food. Food affects us all, so it's going to get our attention, right, if things start changing, and that's another form of awakening. And what I'm talking about is an awakening to that, wow, we were kind of like in a 3D matrix, as they say. They throw that word around because it's universally what we can all relate to, that something has been suppressing, us beautiful, loving beings, putting us more in a slave society, a punished society. None of us ever wanted that. And now's the time to take that lid off and say, nope, no more. We're busting out and we're spreading our love, and we cannot be contained anymore. And we're going to put out the love, shine out the love. And that's why I'm doing these things now. I think I'm being called, extra to do kind of whatever, like this one's called spirit animals. So this is the spirit part of the talk. And each week it's just whatever wants to come through after I connect and say, hey, what do you want me to do? And then either something will come in right away, or it'll take a few days, or I'll get an email from one of you lovely people, or it comes in some other way and someone just mentions something that they were moved to mention. And then who knows, that could be the topic of the whole next show. And I also invite, if any of you, I haven't said it directly before, but if anybody, as you hear me going on and on here, if you have any visions or things, you're like, I don't know why, but I feel like I should tell her about this. Actually, one of you beautiful people did do that, contacted me and said, hey, I was supposed to tell you something like this, and it's trying to be really important, not important in a way like, oh, life or death, but really enriching way for both of us. And it was something that came up I never really would have thought of, that was very meaningful. And so you just never know. So I guess I'm here to say too, now's the time to not be afraid. Certainly not. Actually, somebody commented on one of my videos recently. I think they were well-meaning, well-intending, but there is no fear here. It was kind of like to the gist of, you might want to watch yourself, like bad energies are, starting to really come into, what do I want to say? Like come after the good energies in the next few days. No. Okay. First of all, I wouldn't be doing this if I did not feel, divinely protected. And now the days of that kind of worrying or whatever are gone. Now, I'm not going to recklessly go out and like post, where I'm at. There's like basic safety things involved, especially if any of you, I've noticed a few are considering starting a YouTube channel. So just, there's some security basics, like don't show your house address number or license plates if you can avoid it, anything that would tie you to your actual location. On a spiritual level, if there's anything up to no good, they can see the bright lights. So no address number or whatever kind of applies. There's stuff happening on different levels. But I know for one that I'm absolute knowing that I'm fully protected. In fact, that to the point where I've had examples of being in situations where they were a little bit out of my depth and I believed I was fully protected, and something within me, a power, divine power, will surge through and take care of anything, up to no good. The other thing is just no fear whatsoever. Lately, I've been blessed. I'll say blessed. It's bittersweet, heart-wrenching, but also blessed to be bedside with people transitioning. I've been like a transition coach. And once you see the wonder and the power of what happens when somebody really loving light and is received just in such an amazing way, that we live on. It's just like stepping across the sidewalk. It's just like, oh, poof, now I can't see them, but they're still there. They're just in a plane that I can't see. It goes back to talking about pulling the veil. We're going to start to see more and more. So nobody is truly passed. And when you see how beautiful the process can be of being received in that different dimension, there's nothing to fear. And they're totally fine. If anything, they're looking at us going, oh, I hope they don't miss me too much. It's fine. This is no big deal. This is like, they're going to be so excited when we're all together. So it really isn't. And to the extent that when my loved ones transitioned, I couldn't be sad. I thought, oh, I'm going to be a wreck. And, in certain respects, yes. But God put on my heart, like, I had a big glow ball. I couldn't see it with my physical eyes, but I felt it. I had a big glow ball of love and just knowing everything was fine for 3 months. I couldn't be sad. I couldn't cry, for the loved one, because I'm like, I would be a jackass, excuse my French, to start crying, because I know without a doubt my loved one is in the most beautiful place ever. It's like they won the lottery. On top of it, a full expense paid for over a month. Don't worry about any bills at home, and you are scot-free to do whatever you want. Why would I cry for somebody who just, won it all, so to speak, right? And it doesn't mean you can't be sad. That was just what happened to me. So that that was a gift to just know that we are all love, and we all are one in the room, whether we're on this quote unquote earth plane or in a different dimension, right? Oh yeah, and Jeanette had a similar experience too with a loved one. So once you experience that, and I gotta say, I was hoping I wouldn't be that relative who was the one, and now I look at how foolish that was of myself to think that. I remember thinking when I was younger, like, oh, I love all my family, but ooh, I don't want to be the one who has to, cross them over if they pass in the house. And that's what happened. And it turned out I was by myself, so to speak, for the key part. And I thought, wow, I never imagined I would be the one, it would come down or come up right to me to be that one. And, oh, I don't know about that. Well, I was just in it. It just found me, and I'm in that situation without really thinking about it. And you do everything you can. You pour your love. You give the loving encouragement. You try to ease and comfort the person. I was witness to amazing healings that came through that, actually just through my physical hands. It's like the laying of hands. I didn't know it could come through. So what I want to say is there's just a wonder if we do like this card, open our heart, soften to love, open up, right? Find the flow. I can't find the card. That's what it's all about now. That is all what it's about. And being heart-based, so dropping out of the mind and the head, which can be the monkey mind and squirrels running around and get all chaotic. That's not how you live. When you live with the flow, you're living from the heart space. And it doesn't mean, oh, I'm a sap. Oh, I'm a bleeding heart. I'm not talking about living your life like that. Living from the heart space can have bold and fierceness. It can have strong boundaries. It can be tough love, not just oh, it's not love like walk all over me, I'm a doormat kind of love. That's not love. But it is living from the heart space is living from the totality that is you, living from the integrated you, which is mind, body, spirit, all systems go, all systems just love with that intent. That's it. And when you live from that, your whole outer world experience is going to start to change. And it's getting out of here. Here is oh, bill tomorrow, this and that. Get out of there. Come in here and say, I trust that I am provided for. I trust that there is something I cannot see at the moment that has my back, sides, front, everything. I am fully protected. Wherever I walk, I am protected. And just love, moves mountains, moves everything before me. Anyway, I think I've gone on and on quite a bit, but so if anyone has any not last, but any other thing they want to add in chat, go ahead. And otherwise, I guess we'll wrap it up for tonight. And I did, put this on at a slightly different date and time because I felt it was important to go see the wildlife, and I could only do that yesterday. As far as future talks, I also just go with how I'm led. So if it feels right to do it Saturday, I'll do it, or Sunday, I'll do it as far as US Eastern time. And I'm grateful for anybody who are in a different time zone, different country, if you can make it. So okay, so if I don't see anything else pop up in a second, I will sign off. And as always, and I do mean this as deeply as anybody can, I wish each and every one of you tremendous peace and love. Oh, thank you. Jeanette says thank you. And and she'll go back to the animal part. But I wish you tremendous peace and love. And whatever we're going through, remember, it's not all roses. It's not always going to be, sunshine and roses. It can be, though, depending, again, how we look at it. And sometimes the more absurd a situation is, I just start laughing because I'm like, I can't even believe that's happening. And that's a great response, But sometimes it is sunshine and roses, sometimes not temporarily, right? Like there's a cloud that will pass in front of the quote unquote sun. I don't even want to go down that topic, but you know what I mean? A cloud will pass over the sun. And usually if it's not artificial, it will pass by again, So these are things, they're not even, I used to think they're tests or challenges. They're just life, because the game board of life is going to include a little bit of everything. And it's like, do we rise to the pressure? Do we cave to pressure? It's however we're feeling like at the time, and no harm, no foul, and no self-judgment, no beating yourself up. It just happens. It's a story, and we can create new stories at any given moment. All right. So that's all I'm going to say. All right. Well, Sarah T. Oh, I didn't get to give a shout out to Sarah. Thanks for being here too. And she just says, yeah, thank you, Varleigh, Jeanette, everybody, Hopkinson, everyone. Yes, thank all of you. And until next time, you never know what's going to come up on one of these things. And best wishes all around. Big hugs. Till next time, guys. Bye.